This happened last week, and I don't even know if you know about this. Did you hear that the Israeli new prime minister came before the UN and said they are ready for a two-state solution of peace?
Yes. And, you know, there's a book out called Eye to Eye, and in that book, it outlines what happens to the world every time somebody talks about dividing Israel. Every time. And so we were immediately followed in less than 5 days with a hurricane, because the United States is backing that. And so some people don't believe that weather is affected by anything of any kind. It's all just nature, it just happens. But God directs these things, and if you look at weather events, especially here in the United States, they are connected directly to those events that the United States pushes in Israel. Every one of them. Give you a very quick overview. When the United States, by President Bush, George Bush, decided to do peace in Israel, 10 days later is when the bombings occurred on the Twin Towers. That's kind of a random connection. One doesn't have anything to do with the other, we think, and yet God allowed it to happen. So maybe it does have something to do with it. And it's been that way. Our President Donald Trump decides to move the embassy to Jerusalem, made all of Israel happy, because the United States finally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which we have never done in the past.
But I want to tag on to that real quick. Every president since, what was it, Clinton or Reagan, has said and made it, every president, even Obama did it, said that they were going to move the embassy from, what is it? It was
Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but not one of them ever did until Trump. And I do think that is significant.
Well, I think there's more significance even than that, because when Trump did that, gas prices were the lowest, the economy was fluid and efficient, people were getting back to work after having the epidemic that we had. Things were really looking up, and they did not start looking down until we got a president who decided that we're going to divide Israel. And President Trump had the idea that we're not going to do anything to Israel to hurt them, only to help. And when we reversed that stance, we began to have issues, fires everywhere. It goes on and on. It's just part of...
Yep.
Need to keep in mind that all of these things fit Bible prophecy one way or another, and they all relate back to Israel, and they all relate back to God and the fact that Israel, the Israelis, are God's chosen people.
Yep. Here's something else that nobody ever thinks about. The devil is here to steal, kill, and destroy. His language is the language of lies, right?
Yep.
If the Bible tells us all of this is going to happen, and that weather events and things of that nature, pestilence, all of it, are going to be God's retribution, God preparing, God moving things toward, God punishing us for trying to split Israel, then the devil's going to give man a way to ignore it. And I think he has done that with global warming, climate change.
Yeah.
He has convinced a large swath of the population of the world that man, which feeds into our own pride of ourselves, is the ones responsible for everything that is happening to us. And we, as men, are smart enough to fix it. And we can't. So the devil has presented us this nice little gift wrap to the entire world saying, this isn't God. God doesn't exist. This is you doing it. Follow your own path. Ignore all of this because it's not God. It can't be God. It's climate change. It's what we are doing to the world. And lo and behold, the entire world's able to shut off their brain and say, wait a minute, this is way too fast of an escalation in weather events for it possibly to be done by us this quickly. Maybe we should be looking at God, but instead, no, it's just climate change. It's our own fault.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily believe in climate change. There are events that have happened throughout the world and throughout time that lead us to a warming Earth and having a cold Earth at one point. So I don't have anything to gain or to lose by talking about climate change, but what I do know is man is responsible for a lot of the problems. Mostly he's responsible for it because he's trying to become God himself.
Right. Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a convenient way
Well, it
of
is.
taking God out of an equation that God is very much a part of.
Yes, we need to recognize his part of it. Because he told us in his word that if you do this, then there's going to be a consequence. And if you want peace in your land, if you want your land to produce, if you don't want drought, if you don't want your plants to all die because it's 1,000 degrees in the summertime, then turn to God. And if we turn to God, he'll heal our land and he'll take care of things. His promises are everlasting. And that's, to me, the biggest thing we need to remember. He promised that seed time and harvest would continue until he comes. So global warming's not going to change those seasons that we have. It might adjust how long certain seasons last and how short others are. We could easily go, in Oklahoma we have a bad habit of doing it, going from summer to winter with only 1 or 2 days of fall. And right now it's above 80 degrees today. It's supposed to be above 80 today, so it could easily be that way again this year, and it has been recently.
Feels like a cooling trend because of how hot it's been all
Yes.
summer long.